Hi, this is Manginoni, and here's the final three sections of the DC relaunch. We have Superman, Batman, and Green Lantern. Now, before I go into this, I want to talk about, was this relaunch really necessary? And, the more I read about this relaunch um, and seeing what they're doing with it, I think that in a way this is kind of like a yes-no response. I'll do the easy answer first. No, it's not really necessary because if they kept it the status quo, they'll still be able to sell X amount of books, and over a longer period of time, they could have made minor changes along the way, getting better creators, getting better focus on editing, telling much better, more compelling stories, and eventually they would have been able to gain market share, take it away from Marvel. On the other hand, yes, it's necessary because DC as a whole, as an entire company, is sucking big time. And I don't necessarily mean that as an attack against the stories or the writers or creators. I'm saying if you look at the big picture of market share, Marvel dominates, DC comes next, and then everything is sliced up. Now with the draw the line at $2.99, in theory that you would have thought, in a bad economy would have generated more sales, which should have generated more market share for DC. But from my understanding, that market share never really grew. It might have, they probably would have intended it to. Now, I don't necessarily think that this relaunch was as a direct result of their $2.99 failure. And I don't really mean that as a failure because it's still, it got DC in the news, it got people talking, and I don't think you can call that a failure because of that. But I think, this relaunch, probably they had some seeds planted way, way, way earlier that they were going to need to do something. And the $2.99 was probably the first wave of that. Now, the thing is, what they're doing with this relaunch here that they need to do is there's three different markets. You have established comic readers, you have comic readers that left, and you have untapped market. Now, if they went the slow route, they put a top creator here and a top creator there, you would not have attracted these two markets, only this market, and you would have just grown this way. And that's it. But you do a total relaunch, a reboot, whatever you want to call it. You put it in the newspapers, you put it in USA Today, you put it in, they're saying that they're going to put it in movie theaters. You put same-day digital distribution. Then what happens is some guy who saw the Captain America movie or the Green Lantern movie, he's going to be sitting on his iPad, he's going to be sitting on his smartphone, he'll be on his computer or whatever. He's going to see that article and it's going to say, click this link to buy the Superman #1 or buy Green Lantern #1. And it's a fresh start, no history, none of that nonsense. He's going to click that button and then potentially buy. And then now, if they did their job with these books, now you have a new reader. The older readers who left, same situation. They're going to see this, and then they're going to go, wow, this sounds interesting. I didn't like the direction a lot of these books were going, but, this is perfect. I want this because now I can jump back in, and I don't have all those issues of continuity that I missed. So that's why I'm saying it's a yes-no. But DC really did need to do something to shake things up. Otherwise, they would never have grown at all. But anyways, let's talk about Superman. Now, Action Comics #1 is written by Grant Morrison. So this is automatically going to get a lot of attention. Now, because it's a Superman title, and it's a Grant Morrison issue title, this is going to last. It'll be fine. The sales are going to be extremely strong. And my guess is it's going to be a top 10 book. If it's not a top 10 book, then they did something wrong. And if they did something wrong, I bet you it has to do with that patch on those jeans. Next up is Superman #1, written by George Perez. Now, George Perez is one of the gods of comic books. And the only way that this book is not going to be successful is if by some chance George Perez is out of touch. Now, this is going to be more where you're going to get modern time, where this is going to be more in the continuity, the newer continuity. So you'll have, this is where I guess you're going to have the Lois Lane love interest type thing, where she's dating somebody else. And that's the other thing I was wondering is what you guys think about the the Superman Lois Lane breakup. Now I know a lot of people were pissed off, really pissed off at Peter Parker and Mary Jane, and this is worse in my opinion, because what you're doing is you're not only breaking up Lois Lane and Clark, you're also killing off Ma and Pa Kent, and then you're taking the Martian Manhunter storyline and you're giving it to Superman. That's far more damaging. It might, and you can't argue this is more interesting. You can tell more compelling stories, because guess what? You can do the same thing with the breakup with Spider-Man and Mary Jane. So, this is that one. Superboy, I don't think this is going to last. Superboy is not a strong character as a solo character. He never really sells anywhere close to the top 10, top 20. And I don't think that this is going to be compelling enough to make people want to read it. Same thing with Supergirl. Supergirl, I mean, she has her niche following. She'll have her sales, but I don't think there's anything they can do to really make this character stand out even more. Unless you put Grant Morrison and or Mark Millar or somebody like that on the book. Well, that's all for Superman. So let's go into Batman. Batman #1, basically, you got the guy Scott Snyder who did American Vampire. You have Greg Capullo, whatever his name is, who did Spawn. So this book's going to do well. I'm pretty sure that this is... they're not going to stray too far from this, from the main Batman, from my understanding. So that's going to do well. Detective, same thing. It's probably, I don't see the numbers really increasing more than what it's currently doing. It might get the temporary bump from those new readers, but then if they don't like it or they lose interest in it, it's just going to drop right back down. Batwing, yeah, I don't care who's writing this book ain't lasting for more than a year. This book is going to be, when you have so many bad titles on the shelf, nobody's going to take a chance on this character. Batman the Dark Knight by Finch. I think this is another one of those Batman titles that it's going to be, you're not going to have to worry about it because it's always going to be late. So, it'll be there. They're going to keep it because it's David Finch. And eventually what's going to happen is DC's going to get really annoyed by the fact that he's always late. And they're either going to cancel the book or they're going to put somebody else on it. Batman Robin #1. This is the one I'm really disappointed with because I enjoyed the dynamics between Dick Grayson and Damian. To me, it was such a refreshing change because you have Dick Grayson who's trying to earn the respect of everybody, filling in for Batman. And you have Damian who thinks that Dick Grayson's unworthy to wear the cowl, and he should be the one wearing the cowl. So it was fantastic writing, fantastic story dynamics, characters, internal, and they just didn't like. They liked each other, but they fought together type thing. It was perfect. I have a feeling they're going to lose that tension because it's Damian and his dad. So now he's going to have to listen to what Daddy says. Batgirl, this is the one I am 100% totally against. I do not like the concept of Barbara Gordon running around in a costume again. I preferred her as Oracle, and I do not buy DC's response to saying, well, she's the most recognizable one. Batgirl. No, I think they just did it because they knew that this was going to cause a lot of controversy, a lot of attention, and if they take Oracle out of Birds of Prey, then they could do new things with Birds of Prey. And I'm sure Gail is also probably going, gosh, I would love to write Batgirl, Barbara Gordon as Batgirl again. But I'm against this one completely. Batwoman, I think Batwoman's another one of those titles where it's completely unlike any other Batman title in terms of art and style. So it has its niche, and it's not going to increase or decrease. It's pretty much going to stay the same. Nightwing, we all knew this was going to happen eventually. So doing this relaunch, it made it a convenient way to say, all right, Dick, you're no longer Batman, you're now Nightwing again. It's not going to be a huge seller. It's just going to, I think what we're going to do is we're probably going to see numbers very similar to what it used to be. It might spike a little bit at the beginning, probably the first 2 or 3 issues, just because people are going to be curious to see what it's like. Once they see it's nothing special, then they will probably start dropping it. And only the core fans will stay. Catwoman. I don't know, for some reason I really like to see the Catwoman title, even though I never read Catwoman. We'll see how well Judd does on this title. Catwoman did have some life on her own, but as you can see, it got canceled. So I predict the same thing. I think she's going to have a long run, but eventually they're just either DC's going to get tired of her, or the sales just aren't going to be there to justify it, and they'll cancel it. Birds of Prey. I have to admit, I'm curious to see what's the deal with this makeup, because it looks like you have some heroes and some villains on the team. If that's Poison Ivy, I don't appreciate that costume. I prefer the more classic costume, if you guys know what I'm talking about. And I don't know. Even though I am very curious about this one, I don't think it's going to hold the same magic that the other title did. And I don't know. I think you might see a bunch of fan backlash, because I have a feeling a lot of the people who used to buy Birds of Prey were buying it for Barbara Gordon and that connection of the story, and now you're taking that out. So, or I should say, at least say the Oracle part. So this is a big question mark, but I don't see huge numbers in sales. Red Hood and the Outlaws. This, to me, is an abomination, and it should never have happened. No, it's a Green Lantern. Green Lantern's going to sell. It still has Jeff writing it, so the levels are going to maintain. People are probably going to be pissed off that Hal Jordan isn't Green Lantern, so some of those people might drop it, and then what's going to happen a year later or so. Whenever they get done telling their Sinestro stories, there'll be the quest for the Green Lantern ring for Hal again. So it's just a matter of time that Hal's going to get it. There's no way they're going to keep that ring off his finger, considering he's going to be in Justice League. Did you think about that? Did you think about the second movie? The animated cartoons? He'll be back. Green Lantern Corps. It's a redundant title in the sense of, we already have it. Sales are going to stay the same. It's not going to skyrocket or anything like that. Green Lantern, New Guardians. This is the title where you can tell DC is just trying to dip into the well one too many times. I don't see why we need a title like this to begin with, considering we already have, three other Green Lantern titles besides this one. I wish this never happened. And then we have the Red Lanterns. Probably the Red Lanterns are probably the most popular ones. Probably because they're the coolest looking ones and they're raging all the time. And we all know how much we like to rage. So, my thing about the Red Lanterns is going to be this. DC is never going to be able to tell a compelling story to the fullest extent of the Red Lantern rage, the way it's supposed to be. People should be dying, people should be getting ripped in half, there should be carnage, blood should be everywhere. But we're not going to see it because of, the mature level of comic books and things like that. So it's going to be a watered down version of what we should be getting. I think this will probably last a little bit, and what will happen is pretty much it's not gonna eclipse the Green Lantern sales. It's gonna be obviously underneath that. And eventually, what's gonna happen is when people get tired of paying for 4 Green Lantern titles, then they're gonna start dropping. And Red Lanterns and then the New Guardians are gonna be the ones to go first. So, anyways, I believe that's all of the titles. If you have any comments or questions, let me know. Rate the video up or down, let me know what you think. And if there's one title out of all of the relaunch, which one are you looking forward to the most? That's my question for you today. So, until next time.